Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I have with me comic book creator Rob Multari. So welcome back to the show, man. It's been a while.
It has been. Thank you for having me back on.
I'm very excited to have you on. You've been busy. I mean, obviously, we're going to be talking about Nightwolf, and you've done a bunch of other stuff. I know you just came off of doing a plushie, which is super cool. That did over $10,000, which is very cool, which is in the back over there.
Right. He's hanging out over my shoulder.
And I'm sure that once everybody gets their plushie, I'm sure there's a few left over, and I'm sure they'll be at cons or if people want them.
Yeah.
They could get them, or they could possibly get them on this campaign. Who knows? But we're going to get to that. But I kind of tip my hat because you have Nightwolf 1 to 7 currently being funded on Kickstarter. I think you're almost at 13,000 as well.
Shy of that, yeah.
But we're going to put an asterisk next to that for a few reasons, but we don't have to go too deep into that. But I do kind of want to catch everybody up on what is the basic premise of Nightwolf, because people come in and out of Kickstarter and people also come into projects at weird times. So I kind of want to get everybody up to speed a little bit because this is all 7 issues as they sit.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so Nightwolf is a story about a young man who finds out that he's born a werewolf, gets thrown into a supernatural war against demons, witches, vampires, other werewolves. Basically, he starts off as 18-year-old kid in high school. He has everything, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, got a football scholarship to the college of his dreams, has, hot girlfriend who's the homecoming queen. He's got it all, right? And then shit hits the fan once he finds out that he's born a werewolf. All these, supernatural creatures start invading his small town, and everything gets ripped away from him.
Yeah, let's dive into this because obviously Rodney is fascinating, where he's not a relatable character at first in this entire comic, where I don't know how many people have been born with everything and, take a Shane O'Mac, I guess, lifestyle for lack of a better word. But then obviously he gets thrown a challenge where a vampire, I think Lord Malice, kind of wants his girl, and then his girl gets kidnapped, and then all this weird shit starts happening, and all these rogue werewolves and rogue vampires and I guess demonic creatures, for lack of a better word, come do that. And then he has to kind of face the challenge. And that's what's so cool about your book, is that we're actually testing Rodney's, I guess, positions and his morals and what his whereabouts are, and even how far and what's left in the tank and who he is as a person. Because when you're born with everything, everything's been handed to you, you don't know how far you can go. And that's what's interesting about this book. And we're starting to see it, obviously, in issue 1, we see it a little bit, issue 2, but then when he's going through training and a bunch of other stuff. So it's really interesting. So, like, what is that like to evolve a character who's not likable into, I guess, a character you want to root for?
So I kind of did that whole like Batman thing where, like, Bruce Wayne was born like with a silver spoon, right? He had everything. He was gonna, if his path would have gone down that like route of like, he probably would have been some, rich douchebag and, whatever. But, fate happened. His parents were murdered in front of him, so then he became Batman. So he went down a totally different path. So this is kind of like that same thing. When I made Rodney, I made him everything that, like, when I was in high school, I was like one of the unpopular kids. I played football, but I wasn't a star. You know what I mean? I wasn't, one of the popular kids. So what I did was, I think, like, a lot of the ones, like, I put him kind of like where I saw the people who, like, would have picked on me or whatever, growing up. I put him up there with them just to knock his ass back down, put him into real life situation where, that he loses everything and he has to figure out how to then scrape for himself, how to, learn, this whole new lifestyle, but then obviously putting the supernatural spin on that. It turns out he's a werewolf, has to learn how to live, without all the stuff that he had for the first 18 years of his life. and now he has to learn how to control his lycanthropy. He has to learn to fight. Not he obviously has athletic ability, but that's a whole different story when it comes to fighting with weapons and swords and guns and everything all at once. So that's what I had fun with the training sequence with Snowpaw when she's training him how to fight. He's throwing the sword around like a club, and she's just basically taking advantage of that and knocking them all over the place because it was fun for me to write that. So because I didn't want it to be like one of those stories where like, oh well, he gets it because the hero automatically knows what they're doing, right? No, this is one of those you got to earn. You got to earn everything. You're gonna fall and you got to pick yourself back up, kind of story.
Yeah, let's actually talk about that too, because I'll be very honest. I am sick of superhero stories where it's, Superman and he just is powerful and he's never had any problem. And it's unrealistic, it's unrelatable, I feel. And I think we're in an era right now that people want relatable stories where obviously I am not a werewolf. If you are, feel free to disclose at any point. If
I mean,
anybody would like
I'm a hairy fellow. I don't know what else to say about that.
But I mean, look, I don't judge. I don't have any silver stakes around. I don't carry garlic around either. It's all right. But that the whole beyond going beyond the joke, that part's not the relatable part. But the fact that he's been knocked down on his ass, he's lost everything. And look, people have started businesses and lost everything. People have been through natural disasters and have lost everything. People have lost a lot more. And what is that like to capture? Because that I feel in the mainstream is very much lacking at the big two, and even sometimes with Image a little bit as well at this point. And that's why I think people are gravitating towards indie. And I'm very curious what that is like for you, because that's a drawing point right now that I think 5 years ago was starting to happen, but really wasn't on the table.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like a lot of people are getting sick of the big two, just for the fact that like their stories are just kind of being the same old, same old, same old, over and over again. And with indies, like it's a lot more gritty. It's a lot more stories that like people are writing based on their experience or their creativity, without some big company telling them, no, you can't do that. We need to do this because this is what we think is going to make money. No pencil pushers, telling us what to do. We can basically just, have at it with, our own experiences, take those and put them into a more creative, imaginative format and have fun with it.
And then even going back into the story too. I mean, going back to the fighting scene, because I know that scene in a lot of ways. And obviously, I thought it was a funny scene where Snowpaw is training him, and Snowpaw is kind of this little thing, and she's kind of cute, and she's whooping his ass. It's a very, very interesting juxtaposition on that scene. It's very funny. It's very, kind of experience trumps, size and brute in a lot of ways. And it's kind of funny to watch, somebody who should be kicking her ass getting his ass kicked. I mean, not to sound like mean about it, but
But it's true. Yeah. It's totally, it's a flip on the whole trope of it. It's having her be like, one, she's using her intelligence, she's using her own strength, and she knows how to move, quickly enough that she doesn't have to take, one of those big swings from, she can basically use that weight against him, like thus like using the back of the knife hilt to hit him in the face, like, and use his own weight against him, to knock him down.
And then also what I like about the scene though is that she's preparing him for a greater conflict.
Hmm.
And it's almost in which that he needs the ass kicking, he needs the lesson in how to fight smarter. He needs to learn how to fight. And clearly, things start unfolding going past issue 4 into issue 5 and 6,
Hmm.
where obviously there's a lot more of these supernatural monsters that are going after him. I'm trying to. I don't think I'm spoiling much, by the way.
I mean, it's a supernatural monster book. If there isn't that in there, what what's it about then?
Also issues, 4 has been out for a while at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
for sure.
5 has been out for a while, and 6 maybe a little less
Yeah,
so.
6 has been out for about almost a year now. Well, it officially came out in July last year, so yeah. So it's been out for a bit.
I go by the 6-month rule. So that's as far as I go back, where if it's 6 months or newer, I really wouldn't dive into it, because I think 6 months in indie is sort of brand new.
It is, yeah, still.
I think a year's in India is still kind of new too, but not the point. But it's very interesting that she's training him, and then because she knows shit's about to go down, and that's kind of where we're going in issue 5.
Well, and
Where
that's it too because he got his ass whooped in issue 2. And issue 3. So like the like between those 2 issues, like he had no idea what he was doing. He thought he was just having a schoolyard fight, right? Until he changed into a werewolf, and then Blackclaw changed, and Blackclaw was just basically toying with him. So it was just like, okay, now he's like, I see what you got. I'm gonna finish this. So like, and then like they in issue 3 when they surrounded him in the house, like he had no chance, absolutely no chance without her coming in, without Snowpaw coming in and saving him.
because the reason why I bring all this up, and even that training scene, and then issue 5 and going into issue 6 and all these fights, is that this all kind of leads into issue 7, and where we're kind of getting to I don't want to say the final showdown, because I don't think this is far from over.
Oh no, we're only like stepping into the second half of this story arc.
But we're getting to I guess the end of the first act, where something's about to go down that's going to sort of shift things. I feel in issue 7, and there's going to be at least some type of strike that's going on against Lord Malice. There's going to be something that's going on that might affect Rodney. Obviously, Rodney's girlfriend might be playing a bigger role in all this at some point, and there's going to be a pivotal shift at the end of issue 7. And there's a reason why this book, because I feel like issues 1, 2, and 3 in particular were kind of nicely paced. And then issues 4 was, kind of the neutral zone. And now we're going downhill running. Issues 5, 6, and into issue 7. And what is that like? Because Rodney is ready for a fight. He's clearly more prepared, and it's time that he sort of struck first.
At this point, so in issue 6, without getting too much into it, they actually the Dark Covenant finds them where their safe house is, and it kind of like forces their hand to move. So like issue 7 then becomes okay, we're forcing you to then now have to counter strike, if you will. So this is forcing them to then take the offensive instead of being defensive the whole time. So now they're going on the offensive. And this, so starting with, after issue 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's basically, they're taking the offensive. They're going, there's going to be several key things that happen in the earlier issues that get readdressed later on in the issues. There's a lot of things that I've sprinkled along the way that start to, the subplots start to get tied together.
Let's kind of dive into this, because this is one of the things. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and there gets a point where one wrestler is making an offensive strike against, and then, I forgot, Chris Hero said it really well, where good wrestling is like a Shakespeare play, where in act 1, it's one-sided, act 2 is the other, and then act 3, all hell breaks loose. And that's when you get all the crazy flipping shit, is act 3. Now, it could end good, it could end bad, it could end unsatisfying, but you don't get the flippy shit in act 1. And, there's something very interesting that's going on, where it's nice to see that now the Dark Covenant has been really making offensive moves against Rodney, against Snowpaw. Obviously Rodney has a few allies, and now they're going to make offensive moves back and push that line. And it's kind of nice to see that, because I feel a lot of comics don't know how to do that, where they almost make the enemy and the bad guy constantly pushing and pushing and pushing. And we see it in the big 2 a lot, where it's almost 90% the bad guy pushes, and then in issue 6, the good guy pushes the line all the way back.
Right, yeah, it's like a last minute saves the day situation.
And so what is that like to kind of now we get, Rodney doing some offensive shit and we get that build up back. And now we're in the neutral zone again. So that's kind of where I feel we're going a little bit in this.
Yeah, like I said, at starting issue 7, they started pushing back, and it's going to continue on. There's going to be pit stops along the way, as they're trying to make their way to the Dark Covenant stronghold. But it's there, but they're still like it's not like it's going to be constantly moving to the point where like once like you said, once the shit starts flipping around and shit hits the fan, the last couple of issues are just going to be just ball out crazy, like with a few twists here and there.
And also what's going to be cool about this is that on this road trip, I guess, to the Dark Covenant stronghold, no, there will not be beer pong on that road trip. I promise. I promise everybody. I'm not the writer on this.
I wish it would
be. but obviously there's also going to be maturity going on. There's going to be growth. And I don't know how long this entire trip and this march essentially to the Dark Covenant stronghold is going to take. But what is that going to be like for you? Because, again, this is a big turning point on issue 7, where we're now getting into, well, there's going to be real consequences. I think there is a pretty big consequence in issue 7 that kind of happens that I don't know if it's fully revealed at the moment. I think it sort of was hinted at the end of issue 6, and it's definitely going to happen in 7 that is going to shift things. And there are real consequences that are about to happen. And I have a feeling on this road trip and this march, there's going to be some serious choices being made that can result in some pretty devastating consequences.
Yeah, there will be.
You could plead the 5th at any point.
I'm not going to say which way, how way, what way, but there are some choices. There are some things that get made, and things do kind of go awry. Again, I'm not saying too much.
Even to dive into that, because I'll throw it out. I don't think I'm going to reveal anything major. There is a concept called finalization. And this is one of the reasons why I think manga is killing it, is that when a character gets killed in a manga, minus Dragon Ball, they don't come back for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's going to be finalization in Nightwolf, meaning that if a character dies, that character is not going to be revived. Or if a relationship gets broken, the relationship, technically could be mended, but it will not be the same. And I feel like that's one of the biggest problems in comics right now, is every time you kill Superman or you do something with Batman, 6 months later, we're right back at square one. How many times have we told Batman's origin story? And again, we don't need that again. We're having a Flash movie that's somewhat going to be telling Flash's origin story. Do we really need that? It gets old. And so what is that like for you? Because I think that's one of the attractions when you have shit hitting the fan and there's dire consequences. I think it's very attractive at this point.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that like to kind of dangle like the happy ending and then take it away kind of a thing. But I can't, again, I can't give without getting too much into it, because I have, like I said, there's some twists in there. That
Jen goes back with her old boyfriend is really what happens, guys. That's what's going on.
Let's just say that starting issue 3, the new story arc is set up for the continuation of his journey, but I'm not going to say exactly what that means or where.
Rodney decides to become a baseball player, not a football player. He realizes the money in baseball is much greater.
Only if they go on strike.
And then he took up hockey during the strike. But anyway. I rooted this book for everybody. This is the point. I'm telling you, that'd be the greatest ending to your story. She's like, I guess football is not for me. And he was like a shortstop. Oh, it'd be great. It'd be great. Just terrible. But all jokes aside, it's also really interesting going even further into this, where obviously, I mean, the Dark Covenant is also fascinating in what they're doing and how they operate, because I don't know if Lord Malice and Rodney have actually faced each other directly either at this point.
Not yet, no.
And so that's a whole interesting point as well, where one of my favorite movies of all time is Wrath of Khan. And, I've discussed it with people.
Gone!
It's a brilliant movie. They never ever interact with each other. Between Kirk and Khan, never interact with each other. Yet they're almost playing a game of mental chess in a lot of ways. And if you actually look at it, and this, I mean, I read, I think, the first five. So I haven't read six. And I haven't read seven yet of Nightwolf. But, in a lot of ways, I think Lord Malice is playing a game of chess
Mhm.
with Rodney, where I think he's trying to figure out, cool, obviously he views Rodney as a threat. And, he's testing him with goons and rogue werewolves and vampires and goons and bats and rogue bats and other creatures. And I feel like he's testing him and also seeing what he can and can't do. And then, I think where Rodney now going on this march is kind of launching, I guess, an offensive back on the board.
Mhm.
And that's what's really interesting. And then maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I very much view it as a psychological game as much as it is a physical game.
It is. There's a lot of like kind of mental torture that's going into this as well. Kind of like throwing when you want to when you're playing chess, you kind of want to throw your component or your opponent off balance, kind of or even like in any kind of like game or whatever. If you can get your opponent to not think clearly, you have the game in the bag, right? So there's a lot of that going on. Plus, so because this isn't the only Dark Covenant that's out there. Each region has a Dark Covenant, and this is the one, the local one, if you will. Um, but they all still answer to the Dark Lord himself, and he basically has them. So let's look at him as like the king, and we'll say Malice is like one of like the knights or the rooks or something, in that kind of a situation. And Tartarus, the demon, is kind of like he's like the queen, if you will, moves all over the board. And there was a point. So this issue 7 is a very big backstory that you're going to get of how Malice came to power. So we'll actually get that. So you'll see his backstory and how he came to power, and kind of put you in perspective of like, okay, well, why is he doing this? Why is he so obsessed with Rodney's girlfriend Jennifer? And kind of like what gave him the edge to be, the master vampire of this Dark Covenant. Whereas like there's going to be a shift in power later on, but I'm not going to say exactly how that shift in power takes place or with who, but there are other forces at hand. And let's just say that, there's another chess game being played unaware. Well, maybe not unaware by Malice, but Malice may be not focusing on both games at the same time, if you will.
I could use so many codes, so many codes. I have so many ways I could say this. Um, I'll use a very cool code that might get us both in trouble. Eric Cantor. That's a good code to use. And if anybody knows anything about that, or Joe Crowley, that might be another good code to use as well. If anybody's following politics, they will understand both codes I just used for a reason. I don't know if you picked up on either one of them.
I haven't been paying attention to politics lately.
It's fine. It's fine. Joe Crowley lost his seat to AOC while he was vying for power in the Democratic leadership. His eye was off the prize, and Eric Cantor lost his seat when a shit was going on the Republican side a few years ago. For those who don't know the code and politics and all that stuff. And then I picked both on both sides to be partisan here. So yeah, that I have a feeling that's what's going on. Wait. There's some power shit going on.
There's a power shift, but I'm not saying who or what or why. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I'm not gonna push. I'm not gonna push too far. I have a theory here. I have a theory. But I'm excited to see when I'm right. It's gonna be fun. But I know you're pleading the fifth. It's all right. Um, it's all right. Nick Cannon would be proud. Um,
I plead the fifth.
yeah, yes, it's so good, so good. I don't know how he had twins with Mariah Carey. God bless him. See, we all laugh, and then we were all like, "But how?"
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, we all laugh, and then we're like, "But how?" It's great. I like Nick Cannon, but anyway, enough about that. I definitely don't want to push too far into this book, but I do want to talk about inside baseball a little bit with you on this campaign, your last campaign, because that's also fascinating to me. And I think you passed the 300 backer mark, which is cool.
Mhm.
And I think you passed the 10K mark, which is
Yes.
also good because I know that, the road to 10,000 is not easy.
Yeah, it,
Um,
it depends too on what you're doing. For my last couple campaigns, minus the voodoo doll one, the 10K had come a little easier, but the last one with the voodoo doll that trip to 10K was a little harder. Because it wasn't my typical, it was so it's not, it's not a comic, it's a something that may not be for everybody, but it for me to move forward in my creative career, this was something that I wanted to happen, because I'm also going to be working on a kid's board book that will accompany this. So to kind of open up my audience a little bit more.
yeah, but even still, I mean, look, there's plenty of projects that struggle to cross 10K.
Mhm.
I mean, I've backed a bunch of them, and I reach out to a bunch of them. Hey, I would love to have you on my show, and some of them say yes, some of them say no. And I know, I think I don't know the number. You might know it more than I do, but I think the number that I've seen is like 3,500. I feel is sort of the average, maybe 4,500 sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that number. I mean, it's still good if you're funding $4,500 on Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
It's still impressive.
Oh
If
yeah.
you're funding $1,000 on Kickstarter, it's impressive because it means a bunch of people want to buy what you've produced. But
Exactly.
when you get to the level of 10K or even 5K, 6K, 7K, it becomes, I think, a different game. And again, I haven't done it, so I could be misspeaking. But, I can tell you from my experiences selling books on eBay, when you're, selling 10,000 plus dollars worth of merch every year on eBay, it's very different than when you're selling $1,000 worth of merch.
Well, I mean,
And
it's definitely another level, and it's levels of complexity. A lot more to deal with. And we talked before we went live about how you like things simplistic. To be in this level, there's a lot more moving parts. It's definitely not simple, and to be able to get it to this point, and especially when you're dealing with 7 issues, I mean, and then multiple variants. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot to keep track of. And I try to do my best, and I try to make my wolf pack, which is my audience, happy. And I think the more you do, the more Kickstarters you run, the more you try to do hard and keep everybody happy, that the people will come back. They will run with you, like my pack will run with me, and that we're hunting down these goals, right? And I think that's what's helped me along the way. But yeah, there's a lot of work. I mean, I'm doing this is like my fourth show this week already. You know what I mean? And I have like more like the rest of the week. So it's not like I'm resting on my laurels. I'm putting the time in, you know. So that's just it. It's like any waking moment that I'm not working or with my kids and my wife, I'm doing this.
do you also feel because I mean I'm running an eBay business and I'm in the process of expanding it, and there's plenty of time that I am not sleeping. I am
Mhm.
not sleeping well. It is very nerve wracking because I'm making a pivot. And full disclosure, I'm adding baseball cards as a SKU, and I'm actually getting away from certain companies and adding and testing markets at the moment, and it's very nerve wracking because some of it's going to fail without a doubt. And so I'm very curious, when you test a new cover or you're going and saying, let me try this type of variant over here, or let me try this, because I feel that when you add and make those steps, some of it's going to hit right out of the park.
Hmm.
And then, not to use baseball analogies, but I like baseball, you might strike out too at some point. So what is that like? Because I think that's part of expansion, but
Hmm.
it's also nerve wracking. And
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it is. I don't know if it is for you, but it's
Yeah.
very complicated. And then it's also terrifying saying, is my audience going to leave me if I screw up on cover B or I
Yeah.
try a new idea and they're going to hate it? And that's how I feel. And I mean, I'm going through it and I haven't fully tested it yet. And that's the next 6 months of my business. But I'm curious about what you're doing because I think this is your 11th, I want to say,
10,
campaign that you've run.
10, I think. Something like that.
It's 10, 11, 12. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I know.
we're out. Yeah, we're in double digits at least.
Because what you did 7 for Night Wolf, right? Did you do 2 for Snowpaw?
Well, so I did. So I did the failed one in 2016.
We don't count that one.
Well,
We're not counting that one. Everybody gets a mulligan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I didn't go back to Kickstarter until issue 3. So there's issue 3, 4, 5, the trade paperback, 6, issue 7, which is now the Voodoo Doll, and the 2 issues of Snowball. So yeah, 10.
Oh, it was pretty close. It was pretty close.
You would have been on if you would have counted the failed one.
Well, I'm a very positive person. I
Right,
prefer
right.
not to bring up people's failures if it can be avoided.
Hey, look, I don't hide from it. I embrace it. I know what happened, and I learn from it, and I pick myself up, and I move forward. And here I am.
I agree. I agree. My failures have taught me so much more than my successes, without a doubt. Without a
That's just
doubt.
it. Yeah, I mean, you learn. Your failures. That's if you don't ever fail, you fail to learn. And that's something that a college professor told me one time when this is a kind of funny sidebar. So this was for like a 2D drawing class, right? And there was all these different design terminology and stuff that we had to learn, and we had to do this artwork based off this terminology. And I did everything to a T, just as he said, right? And he finally, one of my last projects, he was like, all right, he's like, you have not failed once, you've done everything right. I want you to do this complex, whatever the terminology was. And it was like almost an impossible, like there was only one way to do this right. And I managed to do it right. And he failed me. And he's like, you failed. I'm like, how did I fail? He's like, well, you failed to fail. I'm like, he's like, and you'll never learn anything. He's like, you're one of those kids who get every. I'm like, he's like, you're one of those kids who always gets everything easy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Just this class apparently. I'm like, this is the only class I've ever had like a straight A in. Why are you doing this? So yeah, that was So yeah, so basically, failure is something that helps you learn and move forward. Because if you keep succeeding at something and you're not knowing what you're doing right, what do are you going to try everything? Or eventually, if you try the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, eventually you're not going to get the same kind of response.
Well, we all know that I tried something, and oh boy, it was good. I was successful on Kickstarter, but oh my God, the amount of hate that I got for what I did. Oh my gosh. But don't worry, everybody. There'll be ample time to hate me continuously for my next project. And you'll hate me not because it's not great what I'm going to do, but because you didn't think of it. So it's all right. It's all right. But I learned a lot from my experience on that campaign. And I realized who's in the foxhole with me and who's not. That's what I learned, which is a very valuable lesson. Is a lot of people say they're there when they're not. And a lot of people who say they're not there wind up showing up out of nowhere and they're like, hey. And it's very interesting. It was a very interesting experience. And it definitely changed the way I function. But this isn't about me. This is not about me. This is about you. It's about your book. And obviously you've done a bunch of stuff with that. And I even want to dive further into this because I think part of what you were also touching upon is finding your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen Tyler Carpenter kind of talk a lot about this. A few other people have spoken about this. I'm a big Russell Brunson fan, who's ClickFunnels, who has a whole book about this. That's very cool about finding your audience. It's called the Dream 100. It's a
Mhm.
brilliant, brilliant tactic. If you have not heard of it, I recommend that everybody go look it up. It will change your life if you implement it. But I don't have time to go into it here. Go buy the book, guys. It's $10. It will change your life. But what is that like for you? Because you don't get to 10K without finding your audience and finding the tonality of your audience and understanding what your audience or what your multiple audiences want in Kickstarter. Because I don't know if there's the one audience for Nightwolf. There might be an audience specifically for cover Cs in you, and then they might not give a damn about anything else. And there might be an audience for just the cover Bs or for certain artists that you have. Like I mean, you have Courtney, Rose,
Mhm.
working for you, and there she has a following. So somebody may not care about Nightwolf, but
Mhm.
they might care about her book.
Right.
Nothing against her, like your book personally, but
Mhm.
there's fans of artists, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And
Uh,
it's nothing against you, but I'm just saying that those Wolfie pasties, they sell everybody. They're
I mean,
really howling
how
at
do
the
you not
moon.
like the face on there, right?
Oh my gosh, it's really howling at the moon.
But yeah. So, going back to like the failed Kickstarter, I didn't have an audience then, and that was clearly an issue. So that was something I learned from was that I need to build this audience up, and I started once I saved enough money to put out issue one, started going to comic cons. I started building my audience from each con, traveling, and then issue two came out, same thing, continuing to go through cons, building my audience there, and then when issue three came out, I was like, all right, well, I can't wait to save money again. People are wanting this. I need to put it out faster. So that's when I decided to come back to Kickstarter. But at that point, I had developed an audience. I started, the Wolfpack started running with me from all these Comic Cons, and that got the ball rolling, the snowball, if you will, because it's been rolling ever since. And that's with each campaign and each Comic Con, each whatever, like it's grown and grown and grown until we've got this pack who's hungry for these books. And that's most of my fans, clearly they're werewolf and vampire supernatural readers. Some are just people who are like, oh wow, that was great art, hey, they saw it at Comic-Con, I'm going to check this out. And then they've come along for the rest of the ride. And then, as you said, then there's the fans of the artists that I work with who have come in and then stuck around. So it's like I said, it's a growing thing. It's in continue. If you do a good job, you're good to your audience. Um, you have a great story, great art. They're going to come back.
And then even to go further, and I'm just curious your opinion on this as well. One of the things for me is right now I'm actually kind of taking a break from Kickstarter, being way more selective because I have a lot of not late Kickstarters, but just projects that I'm owed that
Mhm.
are within the relative time zone that they need to be in.
Right.
But you have 40 of them that are owed to you.
That's
I'm not
that
so
is extremely a lot.
yeah, so some of them are a year out. Some of them, obviously, if you're saying, look, I want to go to a better printer with this book, I get that because I want a better product, especially if it's a hardcover 460-page book.
Mhm.
Rock and roll posters, I got no problem waiting another 2 months for that. Well worth it. And I know the guy's going to deliver, but at the same time, I'm like, look, I am now at a point where I got a lot of projects I'm owed. But I also feel comfortable with a bunch of the people who owe me those projects. And what is that like? Because I think that's one of the biggest problems on Kickstarter is that there's an issue of trustworthiness.
Yeah.
There's an issue of timeness at this point. And, I mean, I'm a big proponent where I'm not happy that you could launch immediately after if you've proven yourself. I actually think it's not the best thing for the industry. I think that there should actually be more time that you can't launch. Like you could finish a project and launch a week later. And I actually think it's a real problem because, and my reason why is that people say, oh, well, the big two do it or all the people in Diamond do it with previews. And yeah, but there's also repercussions, there's safety precautions
Mhm.
where if I pre-order my book and you don't get me my book, I could call up my credit card company or my comic shop and be like, "Where's my book?"
Mhm.
And now my comic shop is going to get on the phone, or conversely, they might cancel the whole thing and refund me my money.
Right.
And so there's safety precautions in, while on Kickstarter it's the Wild West. And I think it's very dangerous. And let's be realistic as well. I hate to say this, and I'm going to make a very, very general, controversial statement, but I think a lot of people on Kickstarter are not great necessarily at business. And sometimes they dip into the cookie jar and then they dip a little more in the cookie jar. And I think we've seen that a little bit. And I have a feeling people are using their tax refunds to get their books done right now. It's just a theory I have.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're gonna get a lot of June, July, and August books this year. I got a feeling. I have a feeling a lot of books are gonna come out because people got their tax refund and they're like, oh, I got another $1,800 to put to my book now to print it. I have
That
this
must
little.
be nice because I don't get tax refunds. My wife is a contractor, so like we basically anything we would have gotten back from my refund goes into what we have to pay her for hers.
But my point is that there are people dip into the honey jar and then say, well, "Where'd the money go?"
Yeah,
It's really where the point is, and I don't think it's necessarily bad because shit happens in life. I get it, but what is that like for you? Because you deliver,
well, that's
and
just it. I make sure that my book is 100% done before I go to Kickstarter because it's basically Kickstarter is mostly for paying for the printing. I've already paid for the art ahead of time. That's all done. So that's to me is it's a lot less stress. So like basically once the Kickstarter ends and the funds come in, then it's off to the printer and it comes out and then I ship. The only time that I've had delays between Kickstarters was one for the trade paperback for issues 1 through 4. This pretty thing here. It was stuck in the port for 6 months, and I was sitting on issue 5, going, well, what do I do? Do I wait till it comes out and fulfill, then do this? It's ready to go. And my audience was like, no, man, we want issue 5. Let's go. Come on. You know, so it just
oh, but
happened.
at that point, I mean, you could have sent somebody a digital very easily.
Oh yeah, the digital was already out. I mean, everybody had their digital rewards. It was just
That,
waiting
that's
on.
that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I'll use a name. I don't think you mind me using Pat Chand as a good example. So he did Destiny New York, I think last September or October. It's a year out. It's not late at all. It might be done a month early, it might be done a month late. I don't really care. But all of the first, I ordered all 6 of them. So I'm going to get all 6 of them in print, but he sent everybody who ordered all 6 of them the first 5 digitally.
Hmm.
So I know the first 5 are done.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the other thing too, is that if it's an issue where you have a bunch of stuff and somebody's ordering the omnibus and it's already done and you're delayed by 6 months in port, but you send me the digital, that's
Right.
also a different story, I
Yeah.
feel, because it's not that you don't have the art done.
Right. Exactly.
It's just that printing sucks.
Yeah. Life happens. And the other. So right now, the plushie, this one isn't fulfilled either, but the digital rewards have been sent out. So everybody who filled out their survey has their digital rewards for this. These guys will be in June, which will be about the same time that I'll be getting issue 7 in. So that I'll be fulfilling both of those at the same time as well.
But my question and where I'm going with this is that unfortunately I've been burned on about 6 projects.
I'm
And
sorry.
and yeah, no, it's and some of them are like $350,000 projects. So one of
Wow.
them is it's bad. They're my friends to some degree. I have very interesting friends who there are pictures with me and people are like, "How'd you pull that off?" And I'm like, "Ah, I'm just a nice human being." It's a great shot. It's a great shot. Everybody who knows the shot that I'm talking about. Um, it's a very, very, very fun day with that girl. Very fun day. But anyway, not the point. Those 6 projects, I will be lucky if I ever see them. I will be lucky if I ever see them.
That's a shame.
Um, and it definitely jades me.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
and
that would anybody. Yeah.
I hate to say it, there's probably going to be a few more out of the 40 that I'm owed that I don't know if I'm ever going to see them. There's probably at least one statistically in there. And I don't think I'm the only one. And people say, oh, well, this is far and few between, but is it really? I don't think it is as I don't think it's uncommon. I don't. And that's why I say that this is a real issue now. I feel is delivery and being trustworthy and being honest because I'm less likely to be angry if you notify me every month.
Yeah.
I would rather be notified every 2 weeks and have saying there's motherfuckers in my inbox again with another update. I'd rather have that response than have radio silence for a
Right.
year. But like I think it's
Oh, yeah,
very
exactly. Communication is key when you're especially when you're waiting to fulfill. Like, I try to give every step of the way. Even like before like launching issue 7 with the plush, I said, "Hey, digitals are all out. Where it's going to be in June, and we're fulfilling with issue 7. So if here's the pre-launch for issue 7. If you're interested, great, come along." But I was upfront with that, from the very get-go. Like this had been the plan when both of these were launching. Like like basically, I was a quarter apart. So I'm trying to do one a quarter. So every 3 months. That'll be a feat if I actually pull it all off, though.
let's even talk about that too, because I like Kickstarters on Clockwork. We were speaking, off air, and we're not going to mention names, but there are people who are doing a Kickstarter every month, and there's actually about like 5 people who are doing that, and I'm like, that's a little too much. It's a little too much for me. I mean, my wallet can be drained, and I don't know about you, but I make a good living. I don't make a great living. I make a decent living. I live below my means, but I can't back a Kickstarter from the same person every single month. You
Yeah,
know,
it's tough. I mean, and I'm a father of 3, and it's like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Aside from doing this, you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean, I want to back as many as I can, but I can't back everybody. So I try to share as much as I can too. Like if I see something that I think my friends or family or my wolf pack will like, I'll share it. And but that's to me, I think that's just as good as if you're sharing. Because it gets more eyes on a project, and not
I'll throw you even a better one. And this is what I say at the end of every interview. It kills me. What I want more than anything else is I want people to subscribe to me on YouTube. I want people to watch my content, share my content. It's crazy to me, and I'll be very honest. A share is just as valuable. Like, obviously, I want money because to run what I'm doing is expensive. I mean, it's not ultra expensive. My bills are about $500 a year to run this project,
yeah.
which isn't terrible. It's not hard. I mean, I can do it out of pocket if I wanted to, but sponsorships help. They tremendously help. $5 helps a lot. Even if I got $200, it reduces my bill down to by 300. And it just so happens that I had to cut Hootsuite out. And I liked Hootsuite, but it was $650 for a year. That's
That's
a
insane.
lot.
Yeah,
That's a
like there
lot of
used to be
money.
a free one. Yeah, exactly. And they're like, "Oh, well, we're getting rid of our free one." I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm not using you anymore."
It used to be 200 and I think $80, which
That's
was affordable. $650 is a lot of money, and I had to cut it out because it wasn't doable anymore at my current level. And if I had a bunch of sponsors paying me $1,500, I'd be right back on Hootsuite, tweeting out like crazy. People used to see my Twitter, and I'd be tweeting out at 4 in the morning. I'd be tweeting at 6 in the morning, and I'd be shooting out legit like 50 tweets a day.
that's insane.
And it was all scheduled months
Yeah.
out, months out. But again, my overhead has gotten downwards $500 a year. It's not bad,
No.
but more importantly, though, I want people to subscribe on YouTube. I want people to watch my content, share out my content, and it bewilders me that I interview people and it's like you can't even subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can't even follow me on Instagram. Like, how do you think you're gonna get on my show if you can't even follow me on Instagram? Like, and that's the part that bewilders me.
Yeah, it's not bad, but
Oh, that's so weird to hear my own voice. Freaks me out. I don't know if you're there.
Oh,
You're still
yeah.
muted.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was done speaking. I was just curious your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think that is it. What kills me is like people will share big name actors and big name like creators and big name everything, but like will have no interaction with them whatsoever just because they're associated with Marvel, they're associated with DC, they're associated with Disney, they're associated with TV, movies, whatever. You know what I mean? They'll listen and they'll like be invested in these actors that they've never met, never talked to. They just see them on TV or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what kills me is like they spend all this time, this money, this effort on all these celebrities that don't give a crap about them, but like your own friends, your own family, your own associates, that they won't share out your stuff when they know you're doing it. You're putting your heart into it. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's like you do have those who do share. So we're very thankful for all of them. But like it's just 90% of the people out there, like that you're friends with on Facebook, won't even take a second to. Oh, they just scroll right past you. Like, oh, there's another comic thing Rob's doing. Oh, there's another another podcast that Andrew's doing. Oh, whatever. You know what I mean? They just scroll on by. They don't take a moment to look at it. They don't say, oh, well, that's cool that you're doing that. Um, I don't know. It's just a weird thing to me that people give more attention to these people, celebrities that they think highly of, but they don't know them.
It's weird. It's
They don't
weird.
even know they exist.
It's funny because it's crazy. I mean, I could tell you the things that move on my YouTube channel and on Facebook and more on YouTube is the wrestling stuff moves with certain names and voice actors move with certain names, without a doubt, without a doubt. And I like talking to people in comics, but it's crystal clear that if I want 9,000 plays, I know exactly where to go to get it. And I hate to say it, but like, and look, I mean, I can reach out to a bunch of voice actors and it's not that hard. And over time, that content does really, really well. And but it's just like, it goes back that if you want an independent media, you have to support it. It's not hard. And support is money, support is sharing, support is liking. And
Yeah.
then the same people who say, I can't get an interview, because I don't know if you know, but I know about 30 people are now who cannot get interviews for anything. God knows what. They can't get on shows, and the shows that they are soliciting don't want them.
Oh, wow.
I know that. I know that because they hit me up. And I'll be very honest, out of the 30, maybe I want 10 of them. Because in the other 20, I'm just not interested. And it's nothing against those other 20 people. I'm sure they're nice people. And this is just very honest. It's just that their project just doesn't interest me. Or I don't think they're going to be a good guest. Or I don't think that they're going to be a net positive for the show. Or they're not what I'm looking for that week or that day. Or the other 10 came first. That happens too.
Yes,
Sometimes I have 16 spots every single month. And I would like to have 3 or 4 cosplayers. I would like to leave room for a wrestler. And I'd like to leave room for 2 or 3 or 4 voice actors. Like that eliminates a bunch of spots. So that means there are 10 spots maybe for comics. And that's me being generous. And that's assuming I do 4 interviews a week. And there's been weeks where I've done 2. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing an extra one on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a life too, and that's just it. Like, you can't fill your time with everything, and you have a schedule, and if you fill it, cool. If you don't, that's your prerogative. They shouldn't be upset by that.
It's just that if you want an independent media, guys, you have to support it. This isn't hard. I mean, it's just logic. And I think it's the same thing with indie comics. Is that if you want more Nightwolf, you need to support it. It's like it sounds so basic, and I feel foolish saying it, but I don't know if it's commuting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, some people it is, some people it's not. I think again, I've built my audience over time, and 99% of them are people that I've never met before in my normal life, unless it was at a Comic-Con. You know what I mean? I mean, I do have a couple friends who hang in there, some family members, but like, but if you consider, like, I'm from a very large Italian family, and a large portion of them are, they're just like, oh yeah, whatever, yeah. They're like, ah, this kid.
It's all right. I basically said to my friends, I said, if you don't back my Kickstarter, we're done. And they're like, fine. It was a very funny conversation, but they were happy to back it because
You know,
that's
I don't expect anybody to do it. Basically I'm more happy with the people who want to back it. You know what I mean? Like I want them to enjoy it. If you're not going to enjoy it, then that's fine. You don't need to back it. But as we said, a share goes a long way. You know, and that's to me anybody can do whether you like it or not, because you might have a friend who likes what you're doing, who likes what I'm doing, who likes who one of the other creators out there. You know what I mean? Like not everybody is interested in the same cup of tea, but
absolutely.
Somebody who is.
I'll be very honest. And this might come off mean and not good, but if somebody said, "Do you have a romantic book?" It's not my cup of tea, right? But I might share it. I might mentioning it. If I have a comic book hangout that I host, you could come on that, but I might not want to interview you. It might not be my jam, or I might look and say, look, this is not really my cup of tea, or I don't know if it's going to vibe with my audience. And it could just be that, but I'm not going to disparage somebody's book.
Right.
Just because somebody has a romantic, book, it's just not for me. But then again, I've openly said to people, if you have a racing car comic book, you get to come to the line first. So I haven't done one of those, and I'm into it, and I want to do it. And whoever has one, I've said it before that I'm looking for certain things. Like if you have a military book, like a real military book, you get to cut to the front of the line. Like I will cancel somebody to get that in, because it's what I'm interested in. And that's the other thing too that bewilders me, is that I tell people exactly what I'm looking for, and I get nowhere with it, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, you have this, and this. I'm interested. I'm a huge mecha fan. If you have robots fighting each other in gigantic like humanoid machines, I'm in. I don't really care what your book is. I'm in. Like, you don't need to pitch to me. You just need to say, my book's a mecha, dude, and I want to come on your show. And I'm like, let's do it. So that's all I'm going to say. But enough about that. This was a pretty big aside, all things considering. I know you like to cross promote with people. That Tom Hutchinson, just him and his Ursula Minor, I can't take it. I just can't take it. He's too emo for me.
Too emo?
He's too emo for me.
I mean, there's a lot of blood and gore in there. I did enjoy the books that I've gotten so far.
He's just a little too emo for me. I mean, I have a good relationship with Tom. That's why I could say that.
He's into those goth girls.
I do need to pick up the rest of his wrestling stuff from Big Dog Inc. I know he has 3 of them around. I don't know if he has the other 2, but he did do Stacy Keibler as like Penny for Your Soul with Money in the Bank contract. Oh, it's a great cover, dude. It's a great cover.
Nice.
She just went to the WWE Hall of Fame too. It's absolutely fantastic. Guys, I hate wrestling. I'm just letting everybody know. Completely hate it.
Oh yeah. No.
I know you cross promoted with Tom. I think you've cross promoted with a bunch of other people too.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's important as well at this point. I think cross promoting is so important. I mean, I don't know if it was a cross promotion, but it was a partnership on my Kickstarter with Metal Cards. I had a male cosplayer team up with my logo on a metal card.
Oh, nice.
It was cool. It was cool. And it was cool about it that it didn't cost me a penny. It was a merch exchange, because he was going to cons and he needed merchandise and I wanted to use him. And it was great. It was beneficial to both parties because he wanted merch, and it was actually more advantageous on money because he sold those metal cards for $12 a pop.
Oh, nice.
In case anybody doesn't know, metal cards are like 70 cents when you order like over 100 of them.
Right.
Per card. I mean, you want to talk about a big upside for both parties. I mean, and I still have a bunch of those metal cards, and I have an eBay business that benefits from that too. And believe me and him are far from partnerships. So, but it goes into my point is that I think it's extremely important when you can cross promote, because Ursula Minor is a very big project, and it's Big Dog Inc. is pretty big. It's well respected,
Mhm.
and it probably directed people to you, and you probably directed people to him, and it's sort of a warm lead, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and it was a great one to cross over because I mean they were both weres, you know, werebear and werewolf. You know, you figure if you're gonna, and there's vampires involved, so like there's a lot of crossover in interest. So why not do that? And I, you know, I liked I had been backing Ursa Minor prior to that, and then you know Tom and I have met a few times, and you know I've talked to him, you know, online, and he actually I had done my first panel with Tom at a con together, and so he kind of like you know took me under his wing with that, and so I'm very thankful for that, and you know just and when I reached out to him about doing the print, you know, for the crossover, it was, you know, it was mutually beneficial. Like it didn't cost him anything. You know, it was the same kind of situation. Since I'm the one who came to him, you know, I did the art with Carlos Herrera, who is my Nightwolf illustrator, and you know, I sent I since that's part of the plushie that didn't get fulfilled, I will be printing those out and I will be fulfilling them. So you know, for Tom, it was just like, hey, you know, just using, you know, he's like, all right, yeah, here's my character, let's do, you know, that's all, you know, it came down to, and it was cool because like the the print for that was a kind of an X-Men homage. It was like kind of like Wolverine versus Sabretooth in the snow. Like that's like kind of where that like came about. So like as like what like Nightwolf was kind of like in the position of like Sabretooth, where Ursa Minor being like Wolverine, but with like the paws instead of you know the claw the so that was fun to do, and I've done that with a couple other ones, like Charlie Stickney with White Ash, one of my favorite indie books out there, and so seeing like his you know elf character with Nightwolf was awesome. I did a few with Snowpaw. You know, Wes Hartman, he does Savage Sasquatch. So seeing you know Bigfoot fighting Snowpaw was a fun, you know, so like it's entertaining for me as much as other people when you're doing these crossovers too.
Yeah, no, I just think it's very important, and I think that crossovers matter at this point, where I think you know as much exposure as possible.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're in a very interesting business world right now where a lot of customer acquisition cost goes down to how much exposure you can get on social media. And I mean, Shark Tank has proven that model extensively.
Hmm.
I mean, Kevin O'Leary, whether you like him or not, after FTX, is up in the air. But he does make a fair point that if you can get a lot of exposure and get your cost acquisition cost down, that's going to benefit your business.
Hmm.
And or you need products that sell themselves. And I don't know how to get exposure, but I know how to buy products that sell themselves. So my eBay business is based on that premise. And
Right.
that premise alone, it is sick when you have a store that basically is based on the fact that the product sells itself. It's awesome. It's
And
awesome.
you know, and like you said, like the more exposure, and you know, rising tides lift all ships. So when you're sharing each other's projects together, you know, that shows because you know obviously there's a similar interest. You know, there's comics
It,
for
it, it does with when you, because the person who's going to back Ursula Minor will also back your book. It's different where they might not back a military, Winston Churchill book.
right.
So rising tides raise ships of similar kind. It's not. I would not say because when Keanu Reeves and the Power Ranger and all that boom stuff came in, people say, "Oh, it's a rising tide raises all ships," and I'm like, "You're kind of right."
It's probably going to bring in like so like with those big campaigns, if they're bringing in let's say 100,000 new backers, maybe
Yes,
10% of that might be interested in what we got.
yes, I agree on a very general level, but I definitely think that rising tides raise ships of similar kind. Where if I have a book that is a militaristic book and it's hard military,
Mhm.
a werewolf book is going to be a harder
It
crossover.
is. It is.
But if all of a sudden there's a cyberpunk book and that might cross over well with my book, again, it's rising tides of similar kinds.
Right.
is really, I think, a more accurate. But I get the point. Now I'm being nitpicky, if anything. But I do want to dive into your rewards here. So you got a bunch of stuff, and we're not going to go through all of it. I promise. We're going to go through everything but one of them. No. We're not going to go do that. But I do want to show some cool pictures. So I think that's cover A, unless my order is messed up.
Yeah, no, that's cover A.
I think this is cover B.
Yep.
So far I'm 2 for 2. I think that's cover C.
Yep.
I think this is a Chris.
Yeah, Chris Williams.
Which should have been cover C, but it's cover D. But we're not going to count that against you. I'm sorry. I'm doing stand up this Friday. No, I'm not. That's obviously that might be something that's relevant to the story. I don't know. But we're gonna leave it at that. So I think that's cover E, right?
Yes.
And then this is the fun stuff here. This is Courtney's stuff, and this is the pasties. So I'm not too which one I like more. I mean, this one's kind of fun, but I can't really put this one on Instagram. But you can put this one on Instagram, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, they're both gorgeous for sure. And even sometimes the less is more, like, the revealing is kind of like the unknown is also appealing. But yeah, so what where that cover from Courtney came about was, so I had 3 witches that make a very quick 2-page appearance in this book. And last summer, one of the 3 girls who were pictured in that cover was talking about, oh, somebody should do, us as a vampire or something like that. And I was like, how about witches? I have these 3 witch characters that I need designs for. Would you guys like to make a cameo appearance? And so December Lace, Courtney Rose, and Ivanette, all 3 of them are my 3 witches for this issue, and they got themselves on the cover by Courtney herself.
And then to even go further into that, and I think it already expired, but there was a vanishing reward.
There was, yes, that went away today at noon. So that what it was 3 11 by 17 prints and 3 11 by 17 metal prints. So what I'm doing new this campaign is I'm doing weekly vanishing tears, and they're only available for 1 week. And those were the first ones, and now they have vanished, and we have replaced them with several new ones.
Because I backed the campaign, and I don't know if you got the idea from them, but Mount Olympus does this really, really well, where they do vanishing tears. So week 1, and you could do the vanishing tear as a straight up tear, or you could have it as an add-on. Mm-hmm. And it's, I think, great. I think it's clever. I think what it does is that it creates a time-sensitive issue. Mm-hmm. I also think that it keeps your campaign fresh. It mm-hmm. keeps people wanting to come back. And it gives a reason to say, cool, what is going to be here in a week?
Right, exactly. And especially it's intelligent because during a campaign, usually the first 2 days and the last 2 days are like the big days, right? In the middle is what we call the dead zone. And that's our job to figure out what to fill that time with. You know what I mean? So like we could either just keep posting, that's or we could put something in the middle. You know what I mean? So each week.
I had the exact opposite experience on Kickstarter.
Really?
I funded during the dead zone. Huh. So what happened is that I had a good start and I had a horrible finish.
No.
So my last 8 days were rough. But I funded in the dead zone and I did 2 shows. I did no media, but I guess I was doing so much promotion where every day I was just sharing it out relentlessly. Mm-hmm. I must have pissed off so many groups. I shared out my campaign probably more than anybody else. And it might have gotten to the point where people were like, we just got to back this thing. And
they say that it takes the 100th time for somebody to see something to be like, oh yeah, I want that.
But oh man, every day I was getting haters. It was great. It was absolutely wonderful. It was such a good experience. But I funded in the dead zone. It was weird. And then my last 8 days, nothing happened. But I was like, okay, whatever. I had enough stuff going on. So, but It is what it is. It is what it is. But that's getting back to the vanishing tears. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think it's clever because I also think that it rewards people for actually backing too. Because at this stage, I want better rewards and I want more exclusive rewards.
Mm-hmm.
And I want things that I can't get so that you're not going to bring this vanishing tear to a Comic Con.
No, not at all.
And if somebody missed it, well, you're out of luck.
And that's just it. So that's part of the Vanishing Tears too. I'm doing like a tin sign and a wall art along with these 11 by 17s and the metal prints. These are things I am no way going to be able to take to a Comic Con. So this is like a one-time deal. You get it, you get it. You don't. Sorry, this is gone forever at this point. You know what I mean? So these Vanishing Tears, it's a fun thing to do, but yeah, it's not. They're not coming back. So that's something I think people will catch on eventually with my group. I don't think they necessarily, because it's the first time that I'm doing it. It may not be getting as much. Like I have some bites, but I think too that they just don't realize that like a lot of these, like there's even like some bonus prints that I'm not doing as a cover. So like if you're not getting it then when these weak tiers are up, then they go away forever. So definitely take advantage on these exclusive prints and and metal prints and the tin signs and the wall art, because once that week is gone, they are done.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I do my first book, I'm not going to do a vanishing tear. I don't think vanishing tears are good on the first one out.
No. You want you definitely want to have some kind of establishment before you play with that.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, my idea is it's either it's going to be loved or it's going to be hated. Oh, it's going to be so good. I mean, I'll tell you after. It's so good. It's oh man, it's epic. It's a whole new ball game. It's like I'm going to change the game, guys. And you could all laugh. You could all question. But when I change the game, you heard it here first. But then you have a bunch of other stuff too, where I think you have this, which is, a bunch of, I don't know if this is all like the regular covers.
Yes, that's those are all the standard covers. So that's issue 1 through 7, the standard retail covers.
And then you have this, which is a bunch of variants, I think.
Yeah, the limited covers.
So you have that. Mm-hmm. And then you have this, which I'm going to go out on a limb here and throw something very odd out here. And I could be completely mistaken, but these covers seem to all connect.
Yes, those are those are connecting covers, and they're Kickstarter exclusives.
I was just making sure because
yeah, those are connecting covers for sure, except for that last one with the Envu cover that clearly doesn't connect with the other 6.
and so correct me if I'm wrong, was this did this first come out on the last campaign?
Yes, that was a part of the Voodoo Doll campaign. There's 100 printed, there's 200 of those each. So each issue 1 through 6 in that connecting cover, there's 200 each. I think only half of them were claimed in the plush Kickstarter. So there's still another 100 available for this campaign, but they are only being sold through Kickstarter. They will not go to a Comic-Con. They will not go on my online shop. Only Kickstarter. Kickstarter exclusives.
So what is that like? Because I think that's very, very interesting. Where I hate people in comics where if I ever do this, and I haven't decided fully, but if I have a book that is exclusive to Kickstarter, it will only be on Kickstarters. Now, it might take 5 Kickstarters to get rid of the whole stock. Mm-hmm. Or if I have a book and I do my own variant for my eBay store, I'm not going to bring that to a con. I'm not going to bring that. I want it purposely on eBay, mm-hmm. right? Like, to me, that's the point of the book. I hate when somebody brings an exclusive Kickstarter to a Comic-Con, and I'm like, so I could have bought it at the Comic-Con or on your Kickstarter. Like, why would I do it through Kickstarter then? Right. Like, to me, you want to drive traffic to certain areas with certain products. Mm-hmm. Like if you were selling,
you can only take so much inventory. So if I take every single one of those covers, I wouldn't have room for anything else.
I'm just saying, I actually think it's a betrayal even more than an inventory problem.
Oh yeah, that definitely.
I think that's another big pet peeve of mine, where I think I understand people want to make money, but if you have, I'm only going to sell this on Kickstarter, then you better damn make sure you only sell it on Kickstarter. You know, it drives me mad. It drives me crazy, and I don't get it. But I digress. What do I know, right? I have opinions. I don't really have anything to back my opinions up with.
But no, it's a valid point. It's an integrity thing.
Yes, very much so. And then I think you have like a retail package, which is pretty crazy. Your retail package is what? I think the math is like what, like $225 a book?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm really good at numbers. I have a real problem.
Yeah, it's you know, it's wholesale for the retailer so that it's affordable for them and that they can make their money back. You know, it's the point of it. For them, you know, I want to. For me, it's exposure. For them, they're going to make money on
That's the thing. I can't. So I'm getting in this game, right? So I pick up retail packages. If you sell me a book, so if the MSRP of your book is $20, the price point of that I need to be at your book is $8. Now you might say, why do I need to be at $8? It should be 50% off, or I want to sell you my book at like 15. It's because eBay charges 13%. I have to put money aside for taxes.
it.
I also take a risk, and I want a bigger upside. You know, if somebody's to sell me 50 books for $400, that's a really good price point if I could sell those books at $15 to $16. But it's
Right.
not great. I'm making $4 on the book at the end of the day. I'm
Yeah.
not making a killing. I'm not making a killing on that. On $400 and 50 books, if I make $1,000 on it, that's a really good rate of return. That's a 60% upside, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
60% gain. I don't know, math is somewhat my strong point. But
It's the
at
terminology sometimes gets you.
yeah. But the point is that I'm not making a killing. And that's not including all the taxes and all my fees and all that. And that's what I think people don't understand in comics is retail. Because I don't think they've ever asked a comic shop. I don't think they've ever asked an eBay seller. And anybody who wants to interview me to talk about this, more than happy to talk about it for an hour. We could talk about why for an hour about this and my perspective. But nobody wants to talk to me about that. No matter what. Nobody does. It's crazy. They're like, you ever read a book, Andrew? And I'm like, okay. I'll read a comic book and then we can talk about it. That'd be great. But anyway, I digress. I know there's that, which is like $225 a book, which is really good. And then there's the standard ketchup variants, the super rare variants, the super secret variants, the golden variants, the Pokemon variant. There's a shiny Pokemon in there somewhere, I promise. There's any type of variant you want. I think I have like 15 of them, like packages. Something wrong with you. Simplicity is the key.
Look, fulfillment is a nightmare. I'm not.
No, would never be.
But it does get done, and and if I ever mess anything up, please let me know. I'll make it right for you.
and then there's the alpha tier, the omega tier, the beta tier, the sigma pi tier is in there somewhere. There's all these mystery boxes.
Everything in the kitchen sink.
There's like a $99 commission, like with everything else tier. There's a reason why we're not going through all this. We didn't go through it last time either, and I barely made it through the page. I barely made it. But then again, I was watching the Knicks game, which they won, guys. They won. So they're going round two, guys. Finally. But anyway, and then I think there's like a commission by Carlos Herrera, I want to say. Is his name. And so there's that, and there's some other stuff, and then there's like t-shirts and sweatshirts and CGC books and mystery things, and I don't know how you do it.
It's like Spaceballs. Merchandising.
I again. I don't know how you do it. It's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing.
Like I said, my wife, whenever it's fulfillment time, she hates it because I take up our entire front room I have tables laid out, boxes everywhere. It's like clutter central, you know, and everybody has to stay out of it.
I can understand. I can understand. I can understand. I get it. When I have a big order, when I ship out, I get it completely. I completely respect it.
Got to get the
Um,
assembly line going.
see, what you need is you need an intern. That's what you need during fulfillment time.
I,
Just
I, I need an intern to run my social media too. That would be amazing.
just go down to the local college. Just find one. Be like, do you want to learn how to run a business? Like, I mean,
are you a business major? Come on, I got a job for you.
I mean, seriously, at some point, I'm gonna go to the community college and I'm gonna get an intern, and it's gonna be great. My intern's gonna sit at the kitchen table, and I'm gonna teach my intern how to build like $100,000 business. And I say, your professor taught you what again? You have to grease the Teamsters. You have to pay the Teamsters. You should lease for $1.25. And my intern and me are gonna be doing like running my eBay business while watching Back to School. It's gonna be great.
Nice.
It's gonna be great. And then I'm gonna give my intern just like a bunch of like beer to bring back to their college dorm. It's gonna be great.
As long as you're 21.
I'm gonna say I don't ID. I don't know anything. It's all right.
That
I
beer
plead
didn't come
the
from me.
fifth. I
What
plead the
beer?
fifth. I don't know what you're talking about, officer. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're tossing about, Shoshifer.
What's the problem, officer? What's the officer problem? Randy Marsh. Oh, it's great. Anyway, though, enough about that.
I thought this was America. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great episode. Great episode. Oh, I love that episode. It's such a good episode. It's making fun of so many things in
Oh
baseball.
man, I love South Park in general. Like, there's just so many good episodes.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This got Tenorman episodes good. The there's so many inappropriate episodes. My favorite episode is with Snooki.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great when Jersey is taking over. And I have no problem against New Jersey, but that was hilarious. And oh my God, that was great. And then like another good episode was when Kenny died and he had the ticket to get the free candy.
Yeah.
They were trying to build the ladder up and everybody thought it was for an altruistic position.
Yeah. Gonna build the ladder to hell.
So many good things in South Park. So many good things.
Oh my god! And they just know how to cut up everything.
Oh, they take everything to the knife and then some.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. I would love to hang with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, but then I would be afraid to hang with them.
My favorite thing they've ever done is that they went, I think, to like the Oscars or the Emmys. And
when they were dressed in drag or whatever. Yeah.
That was hilarious. And then I think they said the only thing we could have done better is put like white sugar underneath our noses. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
But oh man, they're the best. They're the best. It's so good. And Family Guy is like a close second because they touch everything too.
Mm.
And they go also really far, really.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they keep pushing the boundaries because, like, at one point, what are they going to do if they don't? You know?
Oh, just crazy. I mean, it's crazy. But we have Family Guy because Seth MacFarlane got drunk and missed his plane on 9/11. That's why we have Family Guy, everybody. It's a crazy story. He basically missed his plane, and he would have been on that plane. That's insane.
That is crazy.
It's just a crazy world, and there's a saying where I think we all have a fate, and I mean I'm not religious, but I don't know any other way how to explain that. But I digress.
I mean that's a Final Destination thing waiting to happen to him later.
Oh, Final Destination, great movie in so many ways. Such a good movie. Oh man, what a great movie! Brilliant. So many ways, but I digress. Yeah, that's pretty much everything on your campaign. I don't know what's not on your campaign at this point. I'm just saying.
I mean, there's stuff. There's things.
There's everything. It's like, oh man, my goal when I run mine is to take 10% whatever you've done, and I think I'll be happy.
Believe me, I would have been happier too. Like I
So
said, it's going to be a fulfillment nightmare, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it, and everybody's going to be happy because they get their stuff.
actually, now that I think about it, if I do what I'm gonna do, my thing's gonna be easy as fuck to fulfill. Now that I think about it, it's actually gonna be super easy. Oh man, people are gonna hate me. People are like, Andrew, that's fulfillment. I'm like, dude, it's done.
It's out the door.
It was done yesterday. But Andrew, your campaign's not over. I know. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. But anyway, enough about that. I think I touched upon everything. If there's not something I mentioned, people go find it. It's fascinating. Really, what you should do is you should just buy this book. That's really what you should do, everybody. It's an expensive book. It's $45. I don't know how much this one is. This one's 40, I think, right?
Yeah, it's 40. The other one's 45.
And that one's 45, and I think together they're 75. So you're saving like $10.
Yeah, you're getting a deal together.
So go do that. You could display the safer work one. You keep the not safer one work out of anybody who's under the age of 18, and you'll be fine.
Simple as that.
just and if your wife doesn't approve or your girlfriend doesn't approve, buy both and hide it. And if you get caught, play Shaggy, and you'll be good. Say it wasn't me.
But I found it under the sofa.
Wasn't me. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. And then your response, if that doesn't take, is just start speaking like Sting, and you'll be fine. Don't worry, it works every time. It works every time. Every time, guys. But enough about that. I definitely want to back out of your whole campaign. Now that I potentially ruined your chances at ever having a successful career, and believe me, mine are gone too. So I didn't even start yet. But I am curious where you think the industry is going, because you've been doing this for a while. Now that you and me are both exiting the industry collectively after this interview, hey, it wasn't me. But hey, but in all seriousness, though, beyond the joke, where do you think it's going? Because it's definitely changed in a lot of ways. A lot of shit's going on. There's a lot of weird stuff, I think, going on in the industry. And there's been a lot of shakeups that have happened, I think, in the last 3 years. COVID really, in my opinion, was a massive shakeup that had a bunch of, I guess, smaller shakeups. Is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think so the big two, I feel like they're struggling more. One, because their stories are just regurgitated, over and over again. So it's not, so everything's stale. Even like the movies are starting to get into like this, they're not as impactful as they used to be. I think with the industry as far as indies, there you see, so there's like the smaller ones, they either have they got through the pandemic, they got bigger, they kept going. So like in my case, like for me, like I got through it stronger and continued growing. Then there's the ones who came along the way, and then they kind of stopped. And then there's some that are starting now that are trying to get started, but they're not as much. I think, with the economy the way it is at some point too, is also like an issue as far as like people, would rather put groceries in their refrigerator and gas in their tank at this point. So it's kind of like they're being more choosy as to who they're going to back. So I think that's kind of like where.
Do you also feel that, and this is just my take, is that now that it's nicer out, I kind of want to go to an outside bar. I'm, a young single 30-year-old guy, and me and my friends want to go out to, on a Friday night to an outside bar when it's nice and sunny. And, obviously that's discretionary income is going to that, where that becomes a $60 night for all three of us.
Right.
So, and we think it's, worth it. So now I'm not backing somebody's campaign for $60.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Go outside. Yeah. I mean, there's other places you can do, like before, like during the pandemic, people were stuck at home, so they couldn't spend their disposable income. They were buying books to be able to entertain themselves at home. Now you're not, that's the other thing. So I think the people who have built the audience, they're still moving along. The ones who, unless they're going to Comic Cons and building their audience that way, and then bringing in the Kickstarter, I think they're having a little bit more trouble. But then, then you have like the diehard fans of like the big, 100K plus Kickstarter, so those giants are going to be there forever. So you just have to learn how to pivot and move with the times and just figure it out,
Fair enough. Again, I'm very, very torn on it. I don't know where the industry is going, but I can tell you that I've made a lot of changes in my business based on a lot of stuff, and hopefully I'm right. That's all I can say. Hopefully, and we're gonna find out because I'm testing different SKUs, and a test cycle for me is going to be a $500 expenditure, and it's a 6-month process, and I'm in month sort of 2 and sort of maybe. It just takes time to gather data and to see what it is. And I don't mind spending $2,000 to test 4 different SKUs, drop the 2 that don't work, and double or triple or quadruple down on the 2 that do.
Right.
Because it's a small loss for a massive long-term gain. That's just how I feel. But that's a whole different business conversation for a whole different podcast.
That's a tax write-off too.
What did you say?
So that's a tax write-off too.
Yes, it is. It's a nice tax write-off. It's a super nice tax write-off. And then with the 1099Ks coming, not very happy about that. Last year wasn't a bad year. It just is not going to be as good as this year, which is good. Because I didn't have a 1099K last year. It's nice. This year I do. Everybody's going to get one now, so it sucks. It's 200 items or $600. I do $600 in a minute on eBay. Like legitly on January 4th, I did $600 this year. 3 days in or 4 days into the new year, I'm like, fuck. And then I find out that the 1099K was starting in 2024's year, or you get a 1099K not for 2022, you get it for this year, you get it like next year. It's whatever. So I'm like, great. But I thought it was actually retroactive for 2022, which was nice this year in tax season. Because I got a tax refund this year, which was super nice.
There you go.
And I funded a Roth IRA. So there you go. I got a super tax refund. If there's ever a superhero for me, it's super tax refund. I digress. It's so many ways. I don't know how that even happened, but actually I do. But that's not the point. Anyway, though, I do want to give you a chance to self-promote. Where could people find you, bother you, hit you up, disturb you, yell at you, complain to you, social media, buy silver steaks? I don't know.
Yeah, so you can find me at lonewolfcomics.com. You can find me on the socials at Lone Wolf Comics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can find me personally at Rob Multari at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Quick link to the website or for the Kickstarter is lonewolfcomics.com/Nightwolf. That URL will direct you to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I'm just going to keep saying it, is that if you like something, you got to support it. And in particular, if you like comics on Kickstarter and you want to see them get made, you need to support them. And it makes a huge difference when you throw money at those projects. And when they're live, throwing $5, $10, $20 at it makes a huge shift. And that's how things get made. And it's a great way how to support. And if it's not your cup of tea or money's tight, obviously we're right now in a very complicated time financially. And so, if money's tight or this is not your cup of tea as a book, you can still share it out. And it's not going to cost you a penny to share it out and engage with it and like it. And you never know who's going to see it. Or even just give it a like on Instagram or a like on Twitter or a like on Facebook. Because guess what? It goes a long way and it might not seem like it is, but it does. Or if you only have $1, you could throw $1. into it. And you'd be like, hey, it's $1. And if a bunch of small people throw $1 or 2 into a project, a lot of small dollars can push a project really far. And it's crazy. If you have 1,000 people throwing $1 each into it, that's $1,000. And that could push a project pretty far.
Mhm.
I mean, so it's very interesting in that regard. And then as far as I'm concerned about me, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please subscribe on YouTube as well. I am Pop Anime Comics. I have videos coming out every single day, and I got a boatload of more content coming. And so a lot of cool stuff, a lot of stuff actually from interviews from almost a year and a half ago, like little short clips are coming, and really cool stuff that people might have missed that are really cool little tidbits. And you never know who, what, or how it's going to come up. I mean, I have a bunch of short clips from Megan Holland's head, who is the original Nurse Joy from Pokemon. And she was on my show maybe a year ago. And I have all these little short clips of her talking about Nurse Joy and a bunch of other stuff. And so if you're like me and you're a big kid, you never know what's going to pop up on my show, who's going to pop up on my show, and how they're going to pop up on my show. So keep that in the back of your head, everybody. And I promise you on my show, anything that I do, that you may or may not get smarter. I can't ensure how intelligent you will get, but you will definitely be entertained on my show. That I can promise you, as well as if you so care, my ad rates are up there, and a bunch of other stuff is up there as well in the description above, as well as Rob's link to the Kickstarter. So on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yeah. So again, Nightwolf. It's a story about a young man who's born a werewolf and gets thrown into a supernatural war against demons, witches, vampires, and other werewolves. If you like supernatural stories with demons, witches, vampires, werewolves, this is the story for you. Go to lonewolfcomics.com/Nightwolf.
And I couldn't have said that any better myself. So everybody, that is a wrap.